been employee-owned since 2015, and we recently became B Corp. And a B Corp is basically, it's a triple bottom line. It's where you're legally obliged to balance people, planet, and profit. In 2008 was really interesting to us because we had the perfect storm, really. We had a cotton crisis in 2008, and the price of cotton went up threefold in a matter of weeks. So that was difficult. The global financial crisis was difficult anyway, but all that was made worse because of shareholder greed, because they were just taking too much out and we didn't have enough in reserve. We looked in 2008 about the best way to steer through the crisis. So probably not untypical, really. The owner of the business said that we should become more ruthless. I think he thought that I was soft, really. He said we should squeeze the pips and we should be nasty, really. And I guess that's what most business owners would do in those circumstances. They would just squeeze and cut costs wherever possible. So as the leader, I said, actually, what we were going to do, we were going to start putting our people and customers first before profit, but shareholders would come last. So they would no longer get the massive bonuses and dividends and salaries and expenses. It was no longer tenable for them to do that. And in people and customers before profit led to our employee satisfaction going from 34%, which is dreadful, to 100%, and customer satisfaction from 43% to 98% within 3 or 4 years, really. And obvious to me is that our profits were much, much higher as a result of colleague and customer satisfaction. In fact, people say that our customer satisfaction is world class, and it has been now for probably about 8 years consistently. It's true to say, actually, that in our last 5 or 6 years, our profits are consistently 7 times what they were in 2008. And I think that's pretty good management, but it's also everyone in the company pulling together and all working for the same aims. And what we say is this year's customer satisfaction is next year's profit. Because if you've got the loyalty and the goodwill from customers, then that means the world. And there's so much trust, and that leads to profit, really. We do some pretty strange things. So we do this thing when we're hosting events, and we ask people to guess what our absenteeism is. And often everyone says, oh, it's 1%, it's nothing, it's 2%. And what we say is, actually, we don't measure it. We always say that if you really care for people, then you shouldn't be targeting people to be in work when they shouldn't be. And the fact that some organisations give bonuses, more money to those with perfect absence record, is ridiculous to me. So we thought it would be counterproductive to measure absenteeism. In 2015, we were doing really well. And from time to time, we think about what's our biggest risk, what's the worst thing could happen. And at that point, we thought the worst thing that could happen was that the owners of the company could sell it. And the leadership and all the people really had done a brilliant job in transforming the company to one that was very profitable with a great reputation. So we looked at that And rather than doing a management buyout, we decided to approach the shareholders to become majority at the time employee-owned. So we made them an offer that they accepted. So that meant that we couldn't be sold again, but it also meant that everything for the future was for the good of everyone. And being employer, we don't pay fat cat bonuses, we retain more profits, and that sees us when things get tough. What we started to do many years ago was to make sure that the lower paid were really looked after. So we pay the real, what we call the real living wage to everyone. It's the least anyone in the country should get. We pay everyone's pension in full, 8%. And I think they'll really appreciate that in the years to come, because the state pension is pitiful now, but in decades to come, it will be worthless. So I think we're really proud of that we do that. We import products from Bangladesh and from Egypt. We care about people around the world, and we care about the workers in the factories that make for us. We care more about those workers than we do about the factory owners, actually. What we've done is typically we might buy all the people in the factory something for the house, like a kettle or an iron or something. But in Bangladesh, when we looked, we saw that there's a real problem with clean water in Bangladesh. Not untypical of us. We look to see what the rich people do about it. And what they do, they buy these big industrial water filter machines, not these little things that you can buy in the supermarket. At that point, 89 years ago, we decided to gift everyone with a year's service in that factory. It's probably about 300 or 400 people, a gift of a water filter machine. And we got Unilever in because that's who we bought the machines from. And Unilever do great work in the world as well, actually. And they've just announced that all their supply chain will be living wage around the world by 2030, which is something that we're on with as well. It's not unreasonable to think that we've helped to extend people's lives and possibly save lives as well. And I think buyers have got responsibility to look after the workers in their supply chain. I think our colleagues love what we do around the world. They have a real sense of pride in how we're helping to improve people's lives. Given the choice, I think lots of people in our country would prefer to buy from brands that take care of their supply chain and everything. I think the pandemic has probably driven this faster. I think that brands and employers are more diverse now. You've got such a range. You've got the ones that just clearly don't care and the ones that really do. And I think the pandemic has helped to define who those people are. I think for businesses that really want to improve their sustainability, rather than just telling people it's at the heart of what they do, that's as bland and as probably as untruthful is. People are our biggest asset. If you have to say those things, you're usually not, I think. The best way to improve things environmentally, obviously, is to measure. So a few years ago, the company called Planetmark, we measure the impact that we have. We measure emissions. We started to measure our tier 1 suppliers around the world as well, about what they do. And it's only when you measure that you can look to improve what you have. Lots of people confuse sustainability with using less plastic and carry bags and stuff. It's part of that, but it's much bigger. And it's not just about the environment, it's about sustainability is as much about people as well. So I think for people to understand what that is and what impact they have at work and at home, that's where to start.